I'm going to go ahead and click record, and we will be recording from the point forward. So once again, welcome. This is the fourth webinar of the series. It looks like my camera froze, so we'll try that again. So the webinar series has primarily been based on the 9 elements of digital citizenship. If you were with us last month, we talked about the elements of safety. As I've highlighted tonight, we're going to be talking about the elements that help our students and adults alike be savvy with digital citizenship. And then you can see what our future webinar titles are going to be. So oh, well, here we are. This is supposed to say savvy. I apologize. The elements of savvy are commerce, communication and collaboration, and literacy and fluency, or literacy or fluency, depending on how it's talked about in your particular district. And the other part of the agenda, as I mentioned before, is we will have a Q&A session. So once again, this is about digital citizenship savvy, not safety. As I mentioned, this webinar series is based on those 3 elements. Out of this particular resource, Digital Citizenship in Schools by Mike Ribble. Mike Ribble is really the most well-known ed tech guru around that really knows a lot about digital citizenship. So once again, a lot of the content tonight, as it was last month and will be next month, are out of the book that was just on the screen and this one, the Digital Citizenship Handbook for School Leaders. And you can see that the previous book was from 2015. The newest book was from 2019, and they've really put together, him and Marty Park have put together this framework called the S3 framework. And like I mentioned, we're going to be talking about the savvy piece tonight. If you happen to not be able to join us last month, I did go ahead and hyperlink this, the 3 elements that we talked about last month, and I'll do the same thing for next month when we talk about the social elements. So tonight we're going to focus on these 3, as I mentioned before. So what really is digital commerce? Basically, it's buying and selling of goods, but it's really, what are those tools and safeguards that help us, if we are buying and selling things online? Many of us bank online, and how we may use money in any particular way in a digital space. Digital communication, which we are probably using more digital communication than ever, especially with the pandemic, but the exchange of information, whether it's via email or social media or a blog post, what that might look like. And then we'll get into digital literacy, which is really kind of the backbone of what we have always been teaching in schools about helping our students be more fluent and within media literacy and many of the other digital literacy components. And even as it's mentioned here about fake news, there's so much information out there. What can we believe to be true? What maybe isn't true? So as we dig right into our digital commerce, electronic buying and selling of goods and services. Whoops, let me get rid of that. And so we, what are the tools that children are using as well as adults? So if we move forward, I wanted to also draw to your attention, this is all about educating ourselves and others. And there is a great resource, as I had shown last month. It's called Let's Talk Science, and they have taken a lot of these elements and found other resources. Oh my goodness, I've got the chat in the way here. And anyway, this is a resource from Canada that they have put together. So I just wanted to draw that to your attention, that, any of the resources that we're using or that I have shared in this presentation, if you click on those links, you're going to be able to get a lot more information. So do technology users have the knowledge and protection to buy and sell in a digital world? And it's really, it really starts with children of, a young age to help understand that. ISTE, as I have mentioned before, is an excellent resource, the International Society for Technology in Education. This student guide to safe online shopping. If you click on this, this will go ahead and take you to a resource that will explain a little bit more about some of these ideas. I just want to focus on a couple tonight. Website reliability. We have traditionally been able to, rely on websites with certain URLs, .edu, .gov, but we really have to be scrutinizing what those resources are. The other one I want to focus on too is about secure sites. If we are helping our students understand what is secure and what is not. One of the best things is this HTTPS. The S stands for secure, or the lock on the top of the window as well. So if you look up here, the ISTE.org, you can see that this is also a secure site, another way to verify that. So there's obviously a few more resources there as they are listed here that really can, as educators and as parents, we can dig into to focus on, helping safe online shopping. And that's just the cover of the book again that we're using. So there's lots of different things that we can think about when we are, buying or selling something on the computer. This website takes you to the best business ideas for kids, from the old traditional lemonade stand to mowing lawns to shoveling snow, things like that, and how kids can market and use the technology to to develop a brand for themselves, and how might that look. I also want to just think about so many people are, obviously buying things on the internet now, and Amazon being one of the top places for people to buy things and have it ordered. And so some of those keeping in mind some of the ideas that I just talked about, making sure that it is a secure website. For high school age students, and we do have younger students that might be actually playing the MMORPG, the massively multiplayer online role-playing games. Some of these actually have you sign up and it's free, but then there's memberships, and then, oh, well, we weren't going to buy anything, but then, students, even adults, will end up spending a lot of money, buying things for these kind of games. I think about, even for our younger students, one of the very first games that came out was Club Penguin. If any of you have children of your own, or have been teaching younger children for a while, you might have known about that came out clear back in 2005. And so there are marketing tools to to ask students or children to be purchasing things online. Even programs like Roblox, where they've taken like Minecraft and Legos, and they have their own little digital currency called Robux. And so there's lots of different things that need to be considered in regards to our digital commerce element. And then I just want to remind everybody about the PBS Learning Media website also, that there are so many great resources around our state. In the north, we have PBS Reno, and in the south, we have the PBS Las Vegas. So you can see all of the different elements that are listed here. So let me close up a couple of these, and we'll keep talking about digital commerce. So the digital handbook that I mentioned earlier, that's where these lesson starters came from. And here's a couple of ideas. There really weren't any specific ideas for elementary age with the digital commerce. That's why I mentioned something like the Club Penguin before. But the idea of, in the middle school, researching the idea of the Internet of Things. You know, the original, well, I shouldn't say the original, one of the original Internet of Things is a Fitbit. You know, how is it collecting information about yourself, and then where does that data go, and how is that helping people? The idea is that, you know, any of these things that are listed here, and this will take you to a resource as well. I know I will run out of time if I click on each one of these resources, so if I'm skipping over them, that's why I want you to be able to have this so that you can see where, you know, where these resources are, and there's so many great ones out there. The one I do want to focus on a little bit is if you've heard the terms Bitcoin or blockchain. I was very intrigued when I was researching this, that this book, Andrew Corey is the author. He wrote this book as an 11-year-old. He is now almost 14, and he did a whole research on basically the idea of what Bitcoin is, and, you know, cryptocurrency is really what it's about. And in the news, the latest probably situation that has happened recently is the whole GameStop Reddit situation, where Bitcoin was involved with that. And basically, a Bitcoin is an example of a blockchain, which is a sophisticated database that collects the information about how that works. So check this resource out for sure, especially if you are a high school teacher or administrator, or if you have your own children that are, you know, that might be, you know, interested in how this, you know, can definitely impact our future now and you know, later on. So that brings us then to the next element, which is our digital communication. And so, as mentioned earlier, the very basic definition: electronic exchange of information. Do technology users understand the different methods? You know, not too many years ago, email was really the main form of digital communication, but there are so many different communication ideas now, and especially many of the tools and resources that we're using, with everybody being, you know, remote only, or, you know, in a hybrid situation, and helping our students understand, you know, that there may be situations where there's a communication tool that works better than others. So once again, we've got some great lesson starter ideas around digital communication, and this one for our primary or early elementary would be, you know, something very simple, as most of our students, whether they're elementary all the way to high school, don't necessarily use email that much, and so or at all. And so, you know, what kind of communication tools do they already use in elementary school, or what kinds of things others do they know about, and being able to, you know, put together some kind of a project. And same thing with, you know, upper elementary, you know, what are some of those methods and examples. If we click on this real quick, this is another great resource specifically about digital citizenship, but you can see that they have focused on these three elements. And one of the coined terms I just want to point out here on the screen is, this is actually kind of an old-fashioned term in relative times, but netiquette is another term that's talked about in, you know, different kinds of communication. Probably one of them that is known the most, it would be, you know, don't be typing something in all caps, because it can be, or it normally is interpreted as yelling. That would be one. Another netiquette tool would be, you know, don't don't reply all if you are in a group email, if you don't want everybody to, see your response. So those are a couple of adult examples, but of course it applies to anyone using those technologies. Here's a couple of ideas, one for middle school and one for high school, as far as even this graphic here, the digital storytelling process. How do you help students design, develop, publish, and present a real world product? And once again, what would the technology platform be that would best present that information? At the high school level, because we have, it seems like here in Nevada, either schools are using Canvas or Google Classroom or both. And so making sure that, our students understand, what kind of rules of the road help us navigate in a learning management system. And if there are chat or online discussions in those platforms. This is once again another great resource. I mostly wanted to focus on just pointing out that Ed Tech Teacher, if you're not familiar with this resource, Leading Change in Changing Times, has some great resources. So I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that one. So moving right along here, keeping track of our time. I had showcased this website before as well. It's from a education consortium in the lower part of the state of New York. And the awesome thing about this consortium is they actually have a digital citizen newsletter. And it just happened to be that January of this year was actually focused on digital communication. So if you click on that red arrow that I just clicked on, it's going to take you to their newsletter from last month, and it's going to give some other great ideas about digital communication. So if you are new to our webinar series and you hadn't seen this from last month, this is a great resource, this newsletter series. A couple of other resources. In Control is another great resource that has some videos. There are resources for the teacher, there are resources for the student, and once again, trying to make sure that it's talking about the specific element that we are focusing on for the particular webinar series. And this one is once again another resource that has some effective digital communication tools, not just for students, but also for adults. So trying to make sure that we've got, the broad spectrum covered. I had mentioned PBS with the with digital commerce. There are great resources here. I will not select that one. I do want you to keep in mind, we've talked, if you've been with me before with the previous webinars, we've talked a lot about common sense education. There's a whole section on what they call relationships in communication. And just to review, you can scroll down and there are particular lessons on communication for every grade level, K12. So that is a really great resource as well. So. And that takes us then to our third element this evening, digital literacy. And as I mentioned in the opening of the webinar tonight, digital literacy is one of the elements that probably has been and will continue to be focused on the most in our schools, even though the others, of course, are just as important. But there are so many skills that are associated with digital literacy. And it's not just, as I had mentioned before, it's not about just being digital literate, but it's about being, the fluency of that. So making sure that we are helping prepare our students to be fluent with technology. And have technology users taken the time to learn about digital technologies, and do they share that knowledge? So, how can they help each other with this? And So there are some great resources. I had mentioned, even the discussion of media literacy. Digital literacy is a component of that. So on this particular slide, I wanted to highlight, if you're not familiar with the Nevada Academic Content Standards for Computer Science and Integrated Technology, if we click on this, this is going to take us to the multi-page document. There are so many pages in this document, and I can't see it because my controls are 149 pages within this. And the first part of the document focuses on the Nevada Academic Content Standards for Computer Science. But the rest of the document, and I believe we go down to page 81 in the document, it will take you to those standards. And I mentioned the ISTE standards before, and the ISTE standards are what these integrated technology standards are based on. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knows about those standards, because this is where we can find them within the Nevada Department of Education website, and I just linked that for you. In addition to that, it's really exciting and perfect timing that the last week, it would be the last Thursday of February each year, there is a National Digital Learning Day, and we have so many great things going on in the state of Nevada with digital learning, and especially with our Digital Learning Collaborative. We are having Digital Learning Week next week, exploring digital learning across the state. And there's going to be some sessions, one each day from 12 to 12:30. If you click on this, once again, it takes you to the PDF hyperlink. And please register for this if you are interested in joining in, celebrating this. And even if you can't attend because you might be in class during this time, you can still get the recordings. So this is really exciting for our entire state for next week. And I did just want to quickly show you there is the digitallearningday.org that there's lots of great resources on here as well, and you can join in and be a part of the Future Ready Digital Learning Network if you are interested in that. And all of this really ties together well with that digital literacy, digital fluency element. So keeping that in mind, we'll talk about a few lesson starters for our digital literacy. How does the internet, how is that a source of information for our very young students? None of our students in our K12 schools now have ever lived, of course, without the internet. And so, how does that help them? Same thing with, those proficient skills and knowledge that we, had focused on before in the previous set of ISTE standards, but things like word processing skills and, spreadsheets, databases, things like that, and then just simple troubleshooting skills as well. But I liked this as a resource as far as, we've talked about the 9 elements of digital citizenship. This is actually the 8 essential elements of digital literacies. And these 4 skill sets that are highlighted here, and the 4 mindsets that are really critical to being, educating ourselves on how, and helping our students be educated on what this digital literacy really looks like. And then for middle school and high school, a couple of examples of lesson starters that might be helpful, focusing on this particular standard or element as well. And this resource, Edutopia, if you are not familiar with this particular ed tech resource, it is an excellent resource. As you can see, they've been celebrating 30 years, so it's been around quite a while. This happens to be an article that's, that it was originally written in 2014, so 7 years ago, and then updated in 2017. But there are still so many great things, and I wanted you to know about there's actually the 9 key P's of digital digital citizenship according to this article. And if we go back to our slide deck, I have actually put this document for you that highlights what was just in that article about these 9 key Ps: passwords, privacy, personal information, photography, property, permission, protect, professionally, and knowing that the permanence of your digital presence, we had mentioned in a previous webinar about your digital footprint, that's now actually referred to as a digital tattoo. So those are the 9 key Ps of digital citizenship in regards to our digital literacy element. And here are each one of these images are resources as well. This takes us back to Common Sense. Teachhub.com also has some great resources, and this teachthought.com is where this one came from. And keeping an eye on the clock, we are coming up right at the top of the hour. So if you've been with me before, you will have seen these resources in English and in Spanish that iKeepSafe and Google have put together that have great ideas for digital literacy and citizenship curriculum. So we'll move right along. Within the ISTE standards for students, notice that there are 4 particular concepts under this element, and we talked about these 2 at the bottom last time on digital rights and responsibilities, but this one really talks about digital literacy as we have been talking about tonight. And so I just wanted to remind you that from this slide that you saw previously in the webinar, that's where these standards came from. So that is the wrap up on digital literacy. And as I close my presentation, I just want to remind everybody that that the Nevada Department of Education is providing this webinar as a public service, and it is provided for informational purposes only. It is not a statement of official state policy, nor should it be construed as legal advice on any subject matter. It is neither a legal interpretation nor a statement of state policy. So reference to any specific product, process, service, or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by the Nevada Department of Education. The idea of being able to consult your IT department because some resources may not be available in your district. So keeping that in mind. And so now I would like to open it up to questions. We have this scheduled for 15-minute Q&A. If anyone has any questions, you can unmute your mic, or you can go ahead and put any questions that you might have in the chat. Well, I know I spoke quickly and I have a lot of information to share, so please don't be bashful, and we want to make sure that if you have any questions, you can certainly you know, email me or get back to me. Let me go ahead and put my email in the chat. And I appreciate, I would like to say thank you to Annie Hicks and Mark Rinkin for helping moderate the chat tonight, and always helping support the webinar series. And the PD certificates have been mailed already, so that is awesome. So thank you, Mark, for that. And I will just stay on the line if there are any other questions. I may go ahead and stop the recording now, so that I guess we don't need to record if anybody had any questions.